righty then. I am here with my friend Doug Shirley. Doug and I have crossed paths through a men's organization called Illumin,
Mhm,
and have done some good work together. Good
mhm,
work together, and so I know Doug is well, he'll tell you what he is, so I won't spoil it. But I wanted to sit down with you, Doug, and hear some about healing for men. Hear some
mhm,
about
mhm,
yourself, and really just share this with
mhm,
some people in my circle. So
mhm,
I love you, Doug, and I'm
mm,
gonna pass it over to you, man.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for having me. As you and I just connected to figure out what we might talk about, because there's so much. Um, I'll end up kind of riffing off of an author named Emily Nagoski, so I'll maybe introduce her in a second. But first, to me, I am a husband and a father. I am a God-fearing man. I am a brother to dear friends. Um, I'm a professor of counseling. I'm a therapist. I am a Methodist church attender. I am an Illumin member and constituent in a handful of different ways. And so part of the work I do vocationally, specifically, on mostly on the therapy side, is work with men in their relationships. And so you and I started to talk about when you said healing and men, I said, oh, Emily Nagoski.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of riff with her a little bit.
Absolutely.
She is a sex educator, researcher, educator. She's not a clinician, but she very much informs clinicians like me. Many folks will know her book, Come As, sorry, I get the two mixed up. Come As You Are. That's the
Yes, right. Come as you are.
2014 text. Then in 2024, she came out with Come Together. Come Together is a fantastic book for folks who are interested in exploring sexual literacy, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a phrase that I used with you before we started record, most men are not sexually literate because they're not physically literate because they're not emotionally literate.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'll say that again and I'll say, like, what do you think of that? Most men are not sexually literate because they're not physically literate because they're not emotionally literate.
Mm-hmm.
Got thoughts?
That's my first thought is. My second thought is say more. So
Hmm.
emotional
Hmm.
literacy
Hmm.
leads
Hmm.
to physical literacy, leads to
Great. Yes, and
sexual literacy.
let's not treat it too linearly, okay? I know my phrase makes it sound linear, like A plus B equals C.
Mm-hmm.
But let's assume all of this works in relation: sexuality, physicality, emotionality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me stay with Nagoski. A suggestion there, sort of as I sort of compile her research and her critique on patriarchy, this system that privileges male dominance and often, especially adolescence, men not being allowed to grow the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
A result of that for most men is sadness and loneliness. And so most men walk around feeling sad and lonely most of the time. And sometimes they know that and sometimes they don't. And so if they're not allowed to know that, or they're not allowed to experience that, or they're not allowed to admit that, or they're not allowed to reckon with that, well, those hard feelings and that hard energy has to go somewhere. And so often it goes into the body, where Nagoski would say again, in patriarchy, men are allowed three emotions
Mm.
or three energies. I can be angry, I can be excited, and I can be horny.
Mm.
And so a lot of what our society tells men like you and me is we get to be sexual. In fact, we should be sexual. In fact, there's something sexy about being sexual.
Mhm.
There isn't something sexy per se about being emotional.
Mhm.
There isn't something sexy per se about like knowing what your body's feeling at any given time.
Mhm.
In fact, if you could transcend the limitations of your body, then, fill in the blank.
Mhm.
So again, if we sort of put all this together, I'll give you one more piece here, but if we put all this together, patriarchy breeds sadness and loneliness. Patriarchy espouses for men, those who claim, call themselves, identify as male. We can be excited. We can be angry. we can be horny, all this sort of externalizing energy.
Mhm.
Okay. My phrase, most men aren't sexually literate because they're not physically literate, because they're not emotionally literate. Half the time, what happens, I don't know if it's half the time, maybe it's more than half the time, a man is feeling something. And rather than knowing what he feels, he thinks he's horny.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so by default, what happens is these sort of the layers of what it means to be a man get sort of compressed or collapsed down into, I must be horny. I should go
Mhm.
masturbate. I'm feeling something. I should masturbate in the shower. I'm feeling something. I should go ask my partner for sex. And then they say no. And then and then I remember I could be angry. I'll be angry. And
Mhm.
then I'll be sad and lonely. And I'll feel resentful because they said no to sex.
Yeah. But as you're saying, the options available, I can be angry, I can be excited, I can be horny,
Mhm.
I can be, I can move in that sexual realm. What um, what is it about perhaps like patriarchy, uh, the just the history of male preference or
Dominance.
dominance
Hmm.
or even privilege.
Hmm.
What about that system?
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going to try to make this simple. What about that system narrows
Hmm. Yes.
these options? So,
Helpful
like,
question.
yeah.
Helpful question. The only thinking as a mammal or experiencing as a mammal, to me, the only thing that dominance will give consistently is two things: shame and powerlessness. Okay? So think if I am going to be king of the hill, well, cool. But now I got to defend my turf. I think if you ask the king of the hill, does he feel powerful or powerless? If he's honest, he's got to watch his six
Mhm.
because there's going to be some turkeys trying to take him out. Right. And all of us are aware of the times when the dominance strategy, the dominance milieu hasn't worked. Dominance requires submission. And so
Mhm.
even those with power, unless they're sociopathic, their primary experience is powerlessness. So even the person with the most power in the room most likely feels powerless at their core.
Mhm.
In part because again, I gotta stay king of the mountain. I gotta make sure nobody, kicks me off of my throne.
Right.
So much pressure
Yeah, so much pressure.
to perform.
Hmm.
To perform. Let me give you one more frame here, and then again, I'd love to see where you want to take it. In a book called How Emotions Are Made, an author called Elizabeth Feldman Barrett says emotions are, here's a definition for emotion: energy plus fiction.
Mm.
Energy plus fiction. So, like, even if I was to say to you, Matthew, I was excited to see you today, that means I had energy coursing through my body and I called it something. I told a story.
Mhm.
Excited. Oh, I know what it means to be excited. I feel a certain way. My heart leaps a little bit. I feel kind of tingly. Oh, that's excitement. I tell a story. And so we could suggest that the stories that men have to tell, the fictions that relate with the energy, the stories that men have to tell in terms of the emotions they experience are really quite limited.
Mhm.
A man can't walk around saying, I feel sad and lonely most of the time.
Mhm.
I haven't touched someone non sexually in a year, which,
Mhm.
by the way, we know is true, especially for middle aged white men. They don't touch people anymore, they don't have close friendships other than sexual touch, which is why sexual touch gets so loaded up and it gets so conflated and it gets so problematized.
Yes. Yes. Oh, so when I lived in Southeast Asia, one of the images that stays with me is being in an airport and seeing two soldiers walking away with AK-47s on their back and holding hands
Oh,
and holding hands.
huh,
And so it was a culture
huh.
where male affection was very normal.
Mhm.
And I remember walking through the city in some of the 15 million people, and one of the locals, his name is Paul, and him reaching over to me and holding my hand,
mm,
and us two walking block
mm,
after
mm,
block
mm,
after block,
mm, mm,
holding hands, uh, and and there was something about that that I knew was really good and beautiful.
mhm,
It's like you were saying, like non-sexual touch, like
mhm,
physical literacy, like the
mhm,
goodness
mhm,
of being in close contact
mhm,
without it having to be
mhm,
sexual. And
mhm, mhm. So there ain't nothing wrong with being sexual. Let's be clear.
yeah.
Sex is gorgeous and it's wonderful to want sex, right? But if I'm having five different experiences and I have to channel all of them into sex, sex and sexuality become very fraught,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? If again, all I can feel is angry, excited, horny. I can't feel sad and lonely. I can't feel scared or powerlessness. I can't feel encouraged. I can't feel all these various things, right? Sex becomes sort of it's a note on a piano or on a musical instrument. It's not a chord.
Yes. Yeah. What I often see and talk about is it becomes the like the chord or the note on the piano. It's like the one thing, or maybe one of the things, but one of the main things that men or people know that can be a response to whatever I'm feeling.
Yes,
I'm feeling
yes,
happy, well then I must play that
yes,
note.
yes,
I'm feeling, even though I may not be able to name it, I'm feeling lonely. Well, I must play
yes,
that note.
yes,
Um,
yes,
I'm feeling confused about my
yes,
work or the state of the nation or the
yes,
what I see or hear on the news, and I'm all in turmoil-ish and like despair, perhaps. I must
yes,
play that note.
yes.
And yeah, instead of it being like a, like keep on going with the piano here, like this art, this thoughtful art, this music making,
Mm-hmm.
it almost becomes like burn, burn,
Hmm. Yes,
burn,
yes,
burn.
yes, yes,
Where
yes,
it could be this expression of gratitude and could be this expression of affection or
yes.
this expression of mortality, like
Hmm.
oh God, I don't want to,
Hmm.
like, oh God, you're gonna die one day, and oh,
Hmm.
I'm gonna
Hmm.
miss you, and I just love you so much,
Yes,
and I want to
yes,
give you all that love, that
yes,
sort of.
yes. Or I'm afraid and I want to connect with you in the midst of my fear, right? Like
Mhm.
even to be able to say that as opposed to only having the option of acting it out. I can't admit them that I'm afraid. Let's have sex.
Mhm.
As opposed to I'm afraid I might lose you someday. I want to hold you close. Wait, that's not close enough. Wait, that's not close enough.
Mhm.
Right? That sense of literacy, the layers of literacy. So like when you're talking about the two soldiers holding hands, or sorry, who was the
Yeah,
Paul who reaches to hold your
and then
hand,
Paul, yeah, Paul
right?
later, in
So
the inner city.
so so what I hear you saying is that sort of required you to investigate the stories you were telling around the energy you were feeling.
Mhm.
Like I imagine you had to work on your own physical literacy. Like, whoa, that's a man's hand in my hand.
Yeah,
Whoa, he's not letting that go.
he's not.
What
Five
what
minutes
are
later, no.
what are his intentions?
Mhm.
Wait, soldiers holding hands? Right? So requiring you to interrogate those stories that maybe in some ways limit who gets to hold hands and who doesn't. There's so much limitation. Patriarchy says for men like you and me, there's so much expanse for us. And there is, yes, there's privilege. But there's so much limitation to a system that's based in dominance,
Mhm.
right? It means we can't feel,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Or again, we can only feel a few things, which means we've got to take our energy somewhere. So if you're asking healing and men, energy, our work is to cultivate, to steward energy. You and I are playing with this theme of what it means to be a dragon rider.
Mhm.
Energy, what it means to host and to steward energy and to not have to keep it locked in or
Mhm.
not have to take it out on someone, but to have have a hearty sense of being able to. There's in one of the groups I'm a part of in Illumin, we're reading Francis Weller's new book, In
That's
the
very cool.
Absence
Of the ordinary.
of the Ordinary. Thank you.
Yeah.
In the introduction, he's saying it's a time for us to be immense. IMMENSE, immense.
Hmm.
Now that could sound like two white guys, straight white guys doing a video here. That could, well, I don't want to,
Hey.
I don't want to speak to your, I shouldn't be speaking to your sexual orientation. Sorry. Um, it could, oh, now I distracted myself.
I'll carry on with it.
Okay.
That that if what is expected
Yep.
is these three expressions,
Yep.
right? Or even like they can
Oh,
come out another way. Yeah. Then the invitation to an immensity is I would say a largeness that makes more space for other people to be who they are. A largeness that doesn't
yes. Yes.
that doesn't overshadow
Yes.
anyone, but a largeness that actually as I'm like stretching my arms now, that's like an image of
Yep.
like I can hug.
Yep.
I just became more immense right there.
Yep. Yep.
And this is actually ancient posture that
Mm,
you and I both know in
mm,
the
mm,
Christian tradition of
mm,
immensity.
mhm.
And so yeah, I can, far from like taking the spotlight or overshadowing others, like as I spread my wings, so to speak, it's like it's a welcome. It's a welcome.
Mhm. So here's what's interesting. Let's you and I sort of play together here a little bit. I got afraid in my immensity that I just bumped into you. That I'm somehow claiming your gender identity, your sexual orientation. That's not my business.
Mhm.
But my brain stopped. My brains fell out when I had this moment of like, oh shit,
Oh crap.
maybe I've overstepped. Maybe I became too immense, right? And my brain stopped working. Literally, you saw it happen
Mhm.
just a minute ago, right? You and I would say were sharing, at least I was feeling some sense of aliveness with you. I'm sort of leaning into that sense of aliveness, right? As we're talking about being immense, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, did I over,
Interesting.
did
Yeah.
I overstep,
As you're being immense.
right?
Hmm.
And so when I read a word like immense, or when I interact with a word like, so remember, emotion, energy plus fiction. When I hear a word like immense, I think like, how's that different than the dominance-based narcissism that patriarchy breeds? Well, in this exchange between you and I hope it's helpful that I stopped and noticed. Ah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't just run roughshod over whatever might be happening for you in terms of your social location.
Hmm.
That's not mine. That's not mine to name, right? But I noticed. And so we're talking about like, what does it mean to be literate? And then I got to work with my body is freaking out, going, oh, did I just offend my friend?
And you didn't, but
This,
yeah.
I knew I didn't,
Yeah.
right? But still, my body acts like it does, right? And then I got to work through sort of the literacy of like, what does it mean to be in this body that now is freaking out because of a story that I'm telling about the energy I'm experiencing? So it's like
Mm.
literally just the thing I was trying to talk about happened,
Yeah. Perfect. 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 Perfect timing.
but it doesn't feel good,
Mhm.
right? It still feels kind of like, eh, in
Mhm.
here, right? And so then I got to work with that, right? And so to the point that you and I were making, I could get I could get off the phone and try to go sex this away, or off the video and go try to sex this away. I could go try to get a nice drink or something, cup of tea or something to soothe myself, or I could just sort of stay with what's happening there, right? Again, my belief around this dominance-based system is it's taught men like you and me, we can't stay for very long in our own experience,
Mhm.
especially when things feel this way. We can't linger very long because we're not going to have what it takes. Things are going to collapse.
I want to invoke uh, Dr. Bill Plotkin
All right.
and his book Wild Mind as you're talking about this. And, as you talk about emotional literacy, physical literacy, sexual literacy, there's this archetype, so this blueprint this encoded within us way of being that probably has, not probably, has been suppressed for men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Bill
Mm-hmm.
Plotkin calls it the wild indigenous one.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking to like within us lives this capacity to be very earthy and expressive and in touch, like fully expressing our emotions and at home in our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
free in our bodies. And it correlates with the summer in his model and the direction of the south, and
Mm-hmm.
south being like the direction of heat
Mm-hmm.
and of sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And so just want to just connect that with, perhaps, and anybody listening, you can ask yourself, like, has that part of me been suppressed, like that wild
Yes. Yes.
indigenous one of me,
Yes.
this part of me, this expression of me
Yes.
that knows how to roll around in the dirt, that
Yeah.
knows how to uh, jump into the river and feel the pleasure of the water and to express my rage,
Mm-hmm.
and in ways that hurt no one, hurt no one who don't hurt me. Um, so what I'm saying is like pointing to almost the like one bit of the medicine is
Mm-hmm.
like having this latent, we have like eastern gray squirrels here, where I am in South Carolina. We have the pecan trees, the peach trees. They all have like innate, latent uh, isness of what it is to be them.
Mm-hmm.
I could say they're archetypes, and I have that too. And the
Mm-hmm.
wild indigenous one is
Mm-hmm.
is one of those,
Mm-hmm.
and like summoning, like beckoning, like, and maybe we like lived it more in our adolescence or our childhood, like the part
Mm-hmm.
where we could like play in the mud
Mm-hmm.
and when we had an emotion, we would express it pretty rawly, like,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
or cry over things that people
Mm-hmm.
might have thought were stupid, but we were in touch,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, at least some, with our emotions,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so yeah, that feels like the almost like a storehouse to be able to feel it all, to
Mm-hmm.
feel it all, to
Mm-hmm.
begin to return to emotional literacy, physical
Well,
literacy,
and I
sexual.
hear you talk about wildness and indigenousness. Takes me to Esther Perel's notion of
Yeah.
eroticism as aliveness, right? And
Yes.
so again, when we flatten eroticism into sexuality, when eroticism becomes horny, being erotic means being horny as opposed to being fully alive, right? Again,
Yes.
patriarchy has endorsed sex for men, but in a very flattened way
Mhm.
that probably, at least from Perel's standpoint, isn't very erotic. In fact, what probably a lot of men are doing is killing their eroticism through having sex,
Mhm.
killing their wildness, their indigenousness
Yeah, the
through
arrows.
the hit of dopamine and oxytocin that comes from an ejaculation.
Yes. Yeah, and so the eros, the aliveness, and because I know you mentioned the Methodist Church, I'll quote a early church father, Saint Irenaeus, who said, "The glory of God
Hmm.
is man fully alive."
Yes.
So even like that
Yes.
completeness, like that
Yes.
multifaceted,
Yes.
that like, hey,
Yes.
here's what the culture's given me, and this is nothing new, right? Like
Yep.
Roman culture, anytime where power and religion have been wed, there's been like this pretty narrow view of like, here's what you can be as a man,
Yep.
you know, and yet uh, a multifaceted expression of masculinities is the aliveness, right? Not even,
Mm-hmm.
even the classic
Hmm.
King, Magician,
Hmm.
Warrior, Lover by
Hmm.
Gillette.
Hmm.
Even that,
Hmm.
I mean, that's great. I love that book. But
Hmm.
even that only gets us so far. There's like, just it's
Well, and
such a
and fully alive doesn't mean fully good. Like, it doesn't mean like fully
Mhm.
comfortable.
Yeah.
doesn't mean like I feel fully great,
Hmm.
right? Like a couple minutes ago, I had a feeling that I didn't really want to have. That's part of being fully alive,
Yes.
right? Working with what comes up when brains fall out or a body becomes reactive in some way. That's part of being fully alive,
Mm-hmm.
not having to put that away or act like that didn't happen.
Yes. Yes. As you say that, outside my cabin here. There's an oak tree, water oak, and I remember a few years back, man, Doug, I was in a I was so angry. There's a few moments. There's this something. I was so angry. I was just so like rageful, just so mixed up. And I've had those feelings since then, but this is one that's come into my mind. And I threw myself on the ground out here,
Mm-hmm.
and just looked up at the tree,
Mm-hmm.
um, and let myself be be held by
Uh,
everything there.
uh,
And that was fully alive.
mm-hmm.
It did not feel necessarily good, but
Mm-hmm.
it was fully
Mm-hmm.
alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody was harmed in the making of that
Mm-hmm.
aliveness.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was harmed in the
Mm-hmm.
making.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the trick. It's like this
Mm-hmm.
expression of
Mm-hmm.
aliveness where
Mm-hmm.
I like to say tethered only by love. Like in
Uh-huh.
a way, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not hurting the human or the more than human around me
Yep.
in this
Yep.
way. So
Yep.
uh
Yep.
yeah. Woo! Well, Doug, this
We went on a little journey, didn't we?
this has been great. This has been great. Even though even though you're being mean to me in the middle of the time, and I'm gonna get you, man. I don't know how, but I'm gonna get you.
Not mean to you. I was afraid I stepped on your
Ah,
toes.
that's oh, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you a lot
Mm-hmm.
here on Eros,
Mm-hmm.
on emotion, on feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I love that you name here as we close that it's not necessarily good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just recalling
Mm-hmm.
Carl Jung, where he said, if I had the choice,
Mm-hmm.
if I had the choice between being good and being whole, I'd
Mm-hmm.
pick whole.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
yeah, it might not
Yeah.
be all
Yeah.
rainbows and
Yes. Yes.
sparkles.
Monotone goodness leads to sadness and loneliness.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Doug. I love you, brother.
Love you.
Be well.